The sky was dark, heavy with smoke, casting an oppressive weight over the devastated landscape. Alex crouched low behind a crumbling wall, his heart pounding as he waited for the all-clear. The human forces were scattered, each soldier tucked into whatever cover they could find amid the ruins of the old city. Overhead, the alien warships loomed, their shadows casting long, ominous silhouettes across the shattered earth. He tightened his grip on his medkit, the only shield he had in a world where metal and blood clashed in brutal harmony. There were fewer of them now, their numbers whittled down by the relentless advance of the alien forces. Each soldier knew the odds. The Galactic Coalition was a machine, vast and unfeeling, built on the premise that humans were weak, disorganized, easy to crush. "Alex, this is suicide," whispered a soldier next to him, his voice trembling. The young man, Thomas, couldn't have been more than 20. His helmet was tilted, cracked from the last blast, and he clutched his rifle like it was his last tether to life. Alex offered a reassuring smile, though he knew it probably looked more like a grimace. "We're not done yet, Thomas. Humans have survived worse." His voice was low, measured, even as his mind raced through every survival scenario he could conjure. Ahead, the alien forces began to move, their formation a precise, disciplined march. Their armor glinted under the sparse sunlight that filtered through the clouds of ash. Alex watched as Commander Voss, the coalition's ruthless leader, directed his troops with effortless authority, his every gesture a testament to the contempt he held for humanity. The first barrage hit. Explosions erupted across the human lines, scattering rubble and debris. Alex ducked, pulling Thomas down with him, their ears ringing from the impact. He felt the heat and grit of the explosion on his face, the taste of ash filling his mouth. But he couldn't afford to stay down. Soldiers were crying out, "Friends, comrades." Without hesitation, Alex sprinted toward the nearest voice, his medkit slung over his shoulder. He dropped to his knees beside a wounded soldier, her leg twisted at an unnatural angle. Sweat trickled down his neck as he assessed her injuries, his hands moving with practiced speed. "Stay with me, Marie," he murmured, injecting her with a painkiller. She nodded, teeth gritted in silent agony, her hand clasping his arm in desperation. It was moments like these flashes of raw humanity, that kept Alex going, even as the world around them seemed bent on tearing them apart. A blast shook the ground, forcing him to shield Marie with his body. He glanced up to see Commander Voss watching from afar, his expression unreadable beneath his visor. Alex felt a spark of anger, a slow-burning flame that fueled his resolve. Voss saw them as insects, expendable obstacles in the Coalition's grand march to conquest. But he had underestimated humanity's will to survive. Thomas stumbled over, his eyes wide. "They're not letting up, Alex. We're trapped." Alex's mind raced, analyzing every angle, every possible escape route. "Then we change the rules," he said quietly, his tone sharper than he intended. "We're outgunned, but we're not outsmarted." He signaled to a group of soldiers huddled nearby, each face etched with exhaustion and fear. "Listen up," he called, his voice steady and low. "They expect us to scatter, to panic. But if we lure them into the narrow alleys, we can control the flow. We can make their numbers work against them." Thomas's face twisted with uncertainty, but Alex's conviction held him steady. The others nodded, a fragile thread of hope woven into their faces. Alex had been trained to heal, to save lives, not to strategize. But desperation had a way of revealing strengths he hadn't known he possessed. As they moved into position, the sky darkened further, a storm gathering on the horizon. The alien forces approached, their formation tightening, advancing with mechanical precision. Alex took a deep breath, the weight of the moment settling over him. He met Thomas's gaze, a flicker of determination passing between them. "If we go down," Alex said, "we're taking them with us." With that, they slipped into the alleys, shadows in a maze of ruins. The Coalition soldiers marched into the trap, oblivious to the resistance lying in wait. The alien weapons glowed ominously in the dim light, casting a surreal glow over the broken cityscape. Alex felt the pulse of fear in his veins, but he pushed it down, steeling himself. There was no room for hesitation. He had given his word, and the fate of every soldier there depended on his next move. The silence stretched, heavy and taut, as the alien troops entered their line of fire. Alex signaled, and in unison, his squad sprang to life, unleashing a volley that shattered the stillness. In that moment, they weren't just survivors, they were warriors. And Alex knew, deep down, that this was only the beginning. The city was a labyrinth of shadows and fractured stone, with Alex and his squad blending seamlessly into its jagged contours. The alien soldiers advanced through the narrow streets, unaware that the ruins around them concealed a relentless, calculating resistance. Alex's heart thundered in his chest as he watched the coalition soldiers funnel into the alley, their armor clinking in perfect rhythm. They moved like machines, silent and deadly, their expressions hidden behind sleek, unfeeling visors. From his vantage point behind a broken wall, Alex felt a twinge of dread, but he kept his gaze steady. His squad was counting on him, and he couldn't afford even a flicker of hesitation. His voice, steadied but just above a whisper, cut through the silence. "Hold positions," he murmured into the calm device. "Wait until they're fully committed." Around him, the squad shifted, each soldier tense but resolute. They were a patchwork of survivors, veterans and fresh recruits alike, yet each held a glint of defiance in their eyes, sparked by Alex's confidence. Thomas was nearby, his face grim but determined, his grip on his weapon firm despite his shaking hands. The coalition troops drew closer, their imposing silhouettes casting an eerie glow in the twilight. Alex's gaze narrowed as he tracked their formation, noting a gap in their line. "They're relying too much on their tech," he muttered, the faintest hint of a smirk on his lips. He activated his comm again. Now. The alley exploded with gunfire. Alex's squad opened fire from their hidden positions, the confined space amplifying the sound of every shot, each crack reverberating off the stone walls. Alien soldiers dropped, their mechanical precision disrupted as they scrambled to locate the source of the attack. "Move to Phase 2, Alex ordered, his voice low but urgent. "Shift positions and cover each other. Keep them guessing." They followed his lead, slipping from one shadow to the next, laying down a calculated pattern of fire that forced the coalition troops to scatter. The once cohesive formation crumbled as the aliens tried to regroup, their tactical advantage slipping with every disoriented movement. Thomas joined Alex, his face flushed from adrenaline. "It's working," he breathed, a spark of exhilaration lighting his eyes. "They're completely thrown off." Alex nodded, a faint glimmer of satisfaction in his gaze. "They may have the tech, but we know these streets better." He paused, scanning their surroundings. "But we can't get complacent. This isn't over." A distant thud echoed through the alley, followed by a vibration underfoot that sent chills up Alex's spine. He recognized the rhythmic tremor, a coalition mech. "They're sending in the big guns?" he muttered. "Fall back, now!" The squad retreated in controlled bursts, ducking behind walls and debris as the mechanical giant loomed closer, its metallic form casting long shadows over the battered street. It stomped forward, the ground shuddering with each step, its visor glowing an ominous red as it scanned the ruins. Alex's mind raced. The mech was designed to flush out insurgents, its thermal sensors attuned to detect any warm-blooded life hiding in the ruins. There was no way they could hide from it, not unless they came up with a plan fast. "Thomas," Alex called, gesturing to a nearby wrecked building. "See that stack of fuel drums? If we can lure the mech close enough, we might be able to take it down with a blast." Thomas's eyes widened. "You're saying we need to get it to come right to us?" Alex gave him a grim nod. "It's risky, but we're out of options. If we retreat, they'll mow us down. This is our best chance." With a quick signal, Alex and his squad moved into position, baiting the mech toward the drums. The alien machine followed, its red gaze focused intently on their movements, moving with cold precision through the debris-strewn street. Every creak of its metal joints and hiss of hydraulics echoed ominously, a constant reminder of the force they were up against. "Get ready," Alex whispered, his breath steady despite the tension coiling in his chest. On my mark! The mech stepped closer, its massive frame towering over the squad, its weapons aimed with deadly intent. Alex clenched his jaw, adrenaline spiking as he waited, counting each heavy step. Now! He shouted, and Thomas fired a round into the stacked drums. The explosion that followed was a thunderous roar, a shockwave tearing through the air as fire and shrapnel engulfed the mech. It staggered, sparks flying as the blast disoriented its sensors. The machine struggled, its balance faltering as it tried to recalibrate, its once perfect aim now thrown into disarray. Alex seized the moment. Focus fire! He commanded, his voice ringing with urgency. The squad unleashed a relentless barrage, their shots targeting the mech's weakened joints, chipping away at its armor. Sparks and fragments flew as they chipped away its outer defenses, their combined firepower finally overwhelming the mechanical beast. With a grinding screech, the mech toppled, crashing to the ground in a burst of flame and smoke. Silence followed, thick and palpable, the only sound the faint crackling of burning metal. Thomas exhaled, his voice tinged with disbelief. We actually did it. Alex nodded, exhaustion and satisfaction mingling in his gaze. But as he scanned the ruins, his expression hardened. He knew this victory was temporary, a brief reprieve in a battle far from over. Stay sharp, he said, voice firm. We've shaken them, but they'll be back, and we need to be ready. In the distance, another low rumble echoed, hinting at reinforcements on the way. And as Alex gathered his squad to regroup, he felt a renewed determination settle over him. The ruins lay silent, save for the smoldering remains of the downed mech. Alex's squad regrouped quickly, their faces streaked with soot and exhaustion. Yet there was a glimmer of pride in their eyes, a rare moment of triumph against their relentless enemy. But Alex knew better than to bask in the victory. Reinforcements would arrive soon, and they were far from safe. He glanced around, counting his squad. Thomas leaned against a chunk of concrete, still catching his breath, while Marie tightened the makeshift bandage around her leg, her jaw clenched in pain but her eyes sharp and focused. They were battered, but they were holding together, bound by shared grit and a flicker of hope. We need to move, Alex said, his voice steady but urgent. They'll be back, and they'll come heavier this time. Let's find a defensible spot, somewhere we can plan our next move. Thomas nodded, pushing himself upright. There's an old storage facility a few blocks down. Solid walls, and it has a vantage point. Good, Alex replied, nodding. Lead the way. They moved quietly, keeping low as they weaved through the abandoned streets. The silence was thick, every step punctuated by the distant hum of coalition aircraft prowling the skies. The weight of the battle hung heavy, yet Alex could sense a quiet resilience in his squad. He felt it too, a fierce determination that had taken root, refusing to yield even as they fought against impossible odds. As they approached the facility, Alex held up a hand, signaling for caution. The building was a hulking mass of metal and concrete, darkened by years of neglect. It loomed over the street, its windows shattered and walls scarred, a ghostly remnant of a time before the war. But it offered cover, and more importantly, height. Once inside, they barricaded the doors with whatever debris they could find, creating a makeshift fortress. Thomas took position by a window, peering through the cracks at the city beyond. The tension was palpable, each soldier poised and alert, waiting for the inevitable assault. Alex moved to the center of the room, gathering the squad around him. Listen up, he began, his tone measured. We've proven we can take down their machines, but they'll adapt. They always do. This time, we're going to hit them where it hurts. Marie looked up, curiosity mingling with fatigue in her eyes. You have a plan? Alex's lips curved into a grim smile. The coalition is relying on a central command network to coordinate their forces. If we can disrupt their signal hub, even for a few minutes, we'll give the rest of our people a chance to regroup and counterattack. Thomas frowned, glancing at Alex skeptically. You mean the calm relay? That thing's a fortress. It's suicide. Not if we can get close enough to plant an EMP charge, Alex replied, his voice calm but determined. "They're arrogant. They think we're too scattered, too weak to strike at something so critical. That arrogance is our advantage." The squad exchanged uncertain glances, the enormity of the task weighing on them. But Alex's confidence seemed to instill a renewed strength. They had survived impossible odds already. Why not one more? A low rumble shook the facility, dust trickling down from the ceiling. The familiar metallic clank of alien armor grew louder, echoing down the street. They were coming. Thomas looked at Alex, fear flickering across his face before he steeled himself. "So we're really doing this?" Alex nodded, his gaze unwavering. "Yes. We've made it this far because we're willing to fight harder, think faster. That's our strength. And it's time to show them what humanity can do." As the first shadows appeared outside, Alex raised his hand, signaling for silence. They huddled close, hearts pounding as they watched the enemy's silhouette through the cracks in the barricade. The coalition soldiers moved in tight formation, sweeping the street methodically. The aliens' weapons hummed with lethal energy, casting an ominous glow on their armor as they approached. Marie's breath was shallow, her grip tight on her rifle. Alex placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, his own nerves stretched taut. "We hit fast and move," he whispered. "Our goal is survival. Every second we hold out here gives us a chance to make that strike." The doors rattled as the soldiers outside attempted to break in. Alex gritted his teeth, raising his weapon and steadying his aim. The entire facility shook with each impact, dust filling the air as cracks spread along the walls. But Alex's voice remained steady, grounding his squad. "Remember," he said quietly, meeting each soldier's gaze, "we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every human left out there. And that means we don't quit, not here, not now." With a final crash, the barricade splintered, and the coalition soldiers poured into the room. Alex fired, the sharp crack of his gunfire echoing through the confined space. His squad responded in unison, their shots precise and lethal, each one a testament to their will to survive. But as the room filled with smoke and chaos, Alex caught sight of a figure at the back, a coalition officer directing the assault, his visor reflecting a cold, unyielding light. This wasn't just another skirmish. The enemy was here for them, and they were determined to wipe out every last survivor. A chill ran down Alex's spine as he realized the gravity of their situation. Their plan had to work. There was no fallback, no retreat. Chaos reigned as Alex's squad fought tooth and nail against the coalition soldiers pouring into the facility. The air was thick with smoke and the acrid scent of overheated metal, and the shouts of his squad mingled with the hiss of alien weaponry. Every shot counted, every movement precise. But even with their relentless resolve, Alex knew they couldn't hold the line forever. "We're getting overrun!" Thomas shouted, reloading with frantic speed. He was drenched in sweat, eyes wide as he fired into the waves of approaching soldiers. "Stay focused!" Alex called back, his voice carrying a note of unwavering authority. "We just need to hold a little longer. Remember the plan." Their goal wasn't to win here, but to survive long enough to escape and carry out the strike on the coalition's signal hub. Alex could feel the weight of responsibility bearing down on him as he took stock of the situation. They were outnumbered, outgunned, but they still had the one advantage that had kept them alive so far, their unbreakable will. Marie limped over to his side, her legs still wrapped in a makeshift bandage from earlier. Her face was pale, streaked with ash, but her eyes held a fierce determination. "Alex, if we're going to do this, we have to go now." He nodded, his mind racing. They couldn't hold the line much longer, and every second they delayed only increased the risk of being cut off completely. "Thomas, cover us," he ordered. "We're breaking out." Thomas gave a tight nod, his face a mixture of fear and defiance as he turned to lay down suppressive fire, his rifle a constant, steady rhythm that cut through the tumult. Alex led his squad out through a side exit, weaving through the maze of debris and ruins as they made their way toward the coalition's signal hub. He could feel the tremors of approaching reinforcements in the ground, their pursuit closing in like an inescapable shadow. The tension was a coil in his gut, winding tighter with every step. They arrived at the perimeter of the Coalition's relay station, a towering, fortified structure pulsing with a soft blue light. It was a testament to alien engineering, a sleek and foreboding monolith standing against the ravaged skyline. "Stay low," Alex whispered, signaling for his squad to spread out. They'd have to strike fast and hit hard if they wanted any chance of success. Marie set up the EMP charge, her fingers steady despite the urgency. She glanced up at Alex. "This will take out their communications for at least a few minutes, but once it goes off, they'll know we're here. That's all we need," he replied, his voice carrying a grim resolve. "We get in, plant it, and get out. Anything more, and we're sitting ducks." He watched as Marie finished her work, the small device blinking softly as it powered up. Time seemed to stretch, each second amplifying the intensity of the moment, until finally, Marie looked up and nodded. "Go!" Alex commanded, and they slipped around the perimeter, each soldier moving with practiced precision. They darted through shadows, avoiding patrols and slipping past sensors as the charge began to pulse with a steady, rising hum. The silence broke with a deafening crack as the EMP detonated, sending a surge of energy that shattered the air. The lights in the facility flickered and went dark, the hum of alien machinery sputtering as the relay station lost power. Alex felt a surge of triumph, but he knew it was fleeting. The Coalition would respond, and fast. "Move!" he shouted, leading his squad back into the ruins, using the blackout to cover their escape. But they hadn't gone far when the sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the darkened street. Alien reinforcements, more mechs, soldiers, and an imposing figure at their head, Commander Voss himself. Voss's voice rang out, cold and sharp. "Humans, surrender! This is your last chance." Alex tightened his grip on his rifle, glancing at his squad, each face reflecting the same determination he felt. He raised his voice, steady and clear. "We don't surrender. You came here underestimating us, but we're still standing." Voss's visor glinted in the dim light, his expression unreadable. "Then you will fall like all the others." The Coalition soldiers advanced, and Alex's squad prepared for their final stand. They held the line, firing with everything they had left, each soldier fighting as if every shot was their last. The Coalition forces pressed closer, relentless and overpowering, but Alex's squad held, unified by an iron resolve that defied logic. Just as the last of their ammunition ran dry, a rumble sounded from behind, followed by the blinding lights of incoming human reinforcements. The EMP strike had worked. The signal disruption had bought the humans enough time to regroup and counterattack. Alex's squad watched in awe as waves of human soldiers charged into the fray, turning the tide against the Coalition. Relief washed over him, his exhaustion replaced by an overwhelming sense of victory. They had done it, they had held out long enough, their resilience proving stronger than the Coalition's arrogance. As the Coalition forces fell back, Alex looked at his squad, their expressions a mixture of disbelief and triumph. They had survived the impossible, their unity and unbreakable will carrying them through the darkest moments. With the last of the enemy retreating, Alex took a deep breath, savoring the rare, hard-won silence. They had endured. And as he looked out over the battlefield, he knew that humanity's fight was far from over, but they had proven, beyond doubt, that they would not be broken.